Welcome everyone. This is Kate Kalthoff. This is Stamping to Share, and we are going to make a really pretty card today. It's a Scenic card that looks like this. And so let me flip the camera down and I'll share with you all the things that we're going to be using. In fact, get ready, because look at this whole stack. This is my setup for all the ink pads and all of the different stamps that I'll be using on this card, because there's so many different colors that we're using to create this Scenic card. So let me go ahead, I'll flip the camera down and we'll get started. Okay, lots of goodies in the photo here. So let's just start going through them. One of the most important essential items to have when you create a Scenic card is a Scenic stamp set. And Stampin' Up! Has a fairly wide variety. And this one is called Waterfront. That's the one we're using today. Then we are going to be creating a window in our card. So here's the card. You'll notice there's sort of a window where we have this scene. And we're going to be using the stitched rectangle dies. And I've already pre-cut that, so that will save a little time for us on the video, but this is what they look like. And I'll be using the 5th largest if you start counting from the center going out. So it would be the 5th one from the center. We're also using In Good Taste Designer Series paper. This is a huge paper pack. As you can see, there's all kinds of fabulous textures and tile and wood grain backgrounds, and we're focusing on the wood grain today, as you can see by this card. I do offer a free PDF on this card, which you'll be able to find, you know, maybe by the weekend, maybe not. I do eventually get them up, but I schedule my life first, and then we do blog posts. This is all of the different colors that we are using today. So there isn't that many different paper colors because we're just using basic white, and then we have a fabulous brown here called Soft Suede. But all of these different colors that I have in this beautiful array of colors, they're all ink pads. So let me go through the different ink pads that we'll be using on this card. We're going to use, for the clouds, we'll be using Pool Party. For the grass line and the trees, we have Pear Pizzazz. For the lake part of it, we have Balmy Blue. And then our sun is in Crushed Curry. So those are the different ink pads that we'll be using. All right, I think I'll keep this card here for guidance while I go ahead and stamp away. And I had another card. I actually had, it's over by my computer. I'm going to get it because I wanted to show it. I don't know how I left it over there, but I will be back. Give me 1 second here. I wanted to share with you that all of the different backgrounds in the designer series paper, all of those different backgrounds look great. The wood background, as long as you have something kind of wood and naturey in the background, it's going to look great. So I have these two samples, and then the cards we're making today are even different from these two. So you'll get to see a variety of wood backgrounds when we make this card. All right, so let's start with our card base, because that's simple, easy peasy. And we are going to be using our soft suede cardstock, which I've pre-cut. It is 5.5 by 8.5, scored at 4 1/4. And I just have these panels here ready to go. I'm just going to put a quick crease in them so they lie flat for us while we work with them. There we go. And then our inside panels are basic white, 4 by 5 1/4. And then I've gone ahead and I've picked some papers, which I've already put into the inside panel. That is 3/4 by 4 inches. And I have them so that they'll match the outside. So you can see we're using a much lighter wood background here on this card and a darker one over here. So those are the papers I picked out to work with today. But as I mentioned, all of these different colors are fantastic. You might be wondering how I came up with this card design. Well, it's a top 10 card for my downline. Every month I try to find or pick a fabulous card to give to my top 10. So last month oh, well, I shouldn't say last month, actually January sales. So last month's January sales, which we celebrated this month at our demonstrator meeting this past week. Actually, it was this past Thursday. I had this as my top 10 card. So now I get to share it with all of you. And I'm sure my demonstrators loved it. So here it is. This is the inside panel, and here is another inside panel. And I used Stamp and Seal to put them in. So now I'm going to set that aside. And the next thing we're going to do is I'm going to talk about those cutouts that we need to do. So again, some really simple measurements for you. We have the wood grain background here that I've selected to work with one of the cards, and then a darker one over here. Just want to show you the difference between dark and light. They're cut at 4 by 5 1/4. What you do is you take that stitched rectangle die and you go ahead and you center it in as best you can. If you like, if it feels like it's wiggling around a little bit, because this can be tricky getting it centered and then having it stay center when you run it through your cutting machine. I go ahead and I sometimes will put washi tape down. You can even see it here. Sometimes I just keep washi tape right there on my dies, especially if I'm creating a frame and I want it to be really, really accurate. So washi tape will help with that. But I did pre-do this. And then you want to save your inside scraps for another project. But here I have the 2 die cuts that we'll be using today. So that is done. So I'm going to set these aside as well, because now it is time to start stamping. So we are going to be stamping our beautiful scene. And I'm going to make 2 cards because I want you to share this video with your friends on your timeline. And then if you share, please come back and let me know. And we're going to do 2 giveaways on Thursday, and I will mail out these cards along with a surprise gift. I love doing the little surprise gifts because then you don't know what you're going to get, but it's always something nice. So these basic white panels are 3 by 4 1/4. And I am going to use a Stampin' Mat and a piece of scrap paper so that because these scenes, these scenic scenes, will bleed off the edges of the paper that I'm stamping on. And I'm going to tell you that a tip for doing scenic stamping is once you have your design down, it's always a good idea to look at your card. And rather than guess every single time when you're stamping something where it goes, number one, you could use a Stamparatus and get it set up. But there's a lot of stamps in this card. And so for that, I didn't want to do that because I didn't have quite enough panels and it would have taken too long for a Facebook Live. So I am just freehand stamping. But to freehand stamp, it works pretty good. What you need to do is just decide how you're going to build your scene once you have it designed. And I'm going to start so that I get a pretty similar scene on every single card. I'm going to start with the lake because I know that's going to come up just a little bit from the bottom. And so that is going to be my key for building every single other stamped image on this card. By stamping the lake first, I will know where to put everything else. So that is my starting point for this card. So I have all of those ink pads stacked up in the order that I want to use them. So I'm going to start with the Balmy Blue, and I have my lake right here. So we're going to ink that up. And I have to pull this a little bit forward so I can see what I'm doing. But I want to stamp this right here, because that is where about how much I want to leave on the bottom for starting my scene. So once again, I'm going to ink up my lake. We're going to do the exact same thing over here. And the Balmy Blue is done, so I can set that one aside. That's all the Balmy Blue we have on our card, just our lake. The next ink color that we're going to be using and stamping with is Pear Pizzazz. So I'm going to open up this Pear Pizzazz here. And the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to stamp my my grasslands here right in front of the mountain. So I'm just inking it up with Pear Pizzazz, and I'm putting a layer right above the lake. And this, you can stamp another little shot of greenery if your mountains get a little too high, because you don't want them floating above the grassland. So if that happens, if your mountains kind of float, you can always go in and put a little bit more grassland. But so far I think I'm doing okay. Same if it gets a little bit above the lake, you can just stamp another section just below it, it'll be fine. Then I have the trees, so that's the next step. And you can fill this in pretty good, or not. It's really up to you how much you want to put here. And I'm just going ahead and going from left to right, but you just do it the way you want to, the way that looks good to you. And you know, I'm leaving a little bit of open area. I want some room to breathe on these cards, so this looks good to me, so I'm going to stop. That's always part of the hard part of stamping, is knowing when to stop. Because sometimes it sort of feels like you could just keep going and going and going, and then the next thing you know, you get frustrated because it's like, oh no, I did too much and I don't like it anymore. So yeah, sometimes you just have to stop and just take a deep breath and go, oh, I think it's going to be okay. So here's my second view. And then we are done with the Pear Pizzazz. So we'll take that out of the picture and get a new ink color in here, because remember, we're building from the bottom up. So I'm going to open up my soft suede, and we're going to put our mountains on. So I'm going to stamp my shadow mountain first. So I ink it up. I am going to take one layer off, and we're going to be using second generation. So I'm going to go over here and right there, stamp a little bit of mountain, second generation. I'm going to do the same thing on this other card. Stamp off once and add that, second generation. Okay, so now the next thing I'm going to do is go full strength. So I'm going to go in and add a full strength mountain just like that. Isn't that beautiful? And do the same thing with this one. Oh my gosh, I love it. Oh, it's so pretty. It really gets me excited to stamp these Scenic cards. All right, the next thing we're going to do is add our sentiment. So we want our sentiment in the upper right-hand corner. Whenever I'm stamping sentiments, weirdly, I don't know if you guys are like this, but I have to make sure everything's straight on my desk. So I have to make sure my mat is straight. I have to make sure my scrap paper is straight. Then I have to make sure that the paper I'm actually stamping on is straight. And then I have to make sure this is straight. And it's easy for me to see if it's straight if everything else is straight. So there we go. And it's straight. I like straight lace things. Okay, so here we go, the next one. In fact, it's so funny. I did a mystery card with my downline because one of my downline members is really good at stamping kind of whimsical cards, and I wanted to try it for so long. So we did a whimsical card as the mystery card at our demonstrator meeting. Oh my gosh, it was so hard for me. It was so hard, but everybody else's looked good. Mine sort of looked good, but I would have been so much happier if everything would have lined up perfect. Oh, goodness. Okay, so we are done with soft suede. So let's go on to the next color. Oh, what did I put my mat away for? I still need it. Let's see. We are going to now put in the sun with crushed curry. So here is our crushed curry. And we're going to set our sun about right here. Oh, wow. So, so pretty. Look at that. I got to hold it up to the camera. I know you probably can't see it near as good as I can, but isn't that great? It's so pretty. We're going to make it even prettier and add some pool party clouds. So here's our pool party. And, you know, I don't know, this is sort of a swoosh. It could be clouds, it could be grasslands, it could be something to highlight a word or a phrase. It could be whatever you want it to be. So I'm going to have it be clouds. So now what we're going to do is we're just going to set some clouds in. Oh, aren't they pretty? Do I want to go over? I think I want to go over. So this is where the fun comes in, because, you know, every single card will look a little different. There we go. Isn't that pretty? Oh my gosh, the clouds just add so much. So we're going to do the same thing over here. Just add in clouds here, there, and everywhere. There we go. And our clouds are done. Now we just have to assemble this card. So let me put this out of the way. And we're going to go back to card assembly. Now, the next adhesive that I'm going to use is not Stampin' Up. So just hold on to your panties, everybody, because we're going to bring in my contraband. Scotch tape. You know I love it. I have never stopped using it from the day that I joined Stampin' Up. In fact, it's used so much, it never gets put away, and it's rather dusty now that I'm looking at it. So we're going to put this in this, and the only way that I can do that and have it work perfectly for me is to Scotch tape it, because it's a very, very narrow border. All right, so I'm going to do it this way. I've got my tape on here. I've got my frame here, and I'm going to put it right over there. Now, why? You might be asking yourself, K. I've heard that before. You might be asking yourself, well, Kay, why don't you just make that a little bigger? Why don't you just make your white panel bigger? There's a reason I didn't do that. I will share it with you right now. The reason I didn't do that is because I was freehand stamping all of this. Had I lined it all up on a Stamparatus, I could have done that. But because I was freehand stamping, I want to make sure that I wasn't stamping this off too far to the right or off too far to the left. And this way I can be sure, because it was a very narrow border all the way around. So now we're going to do the same thing over here. Since I know how to do this, I'm going to flip it over, put a little skinny piece of tape right there. And then the sticky side is to the front. I'm going to grab this, I'm going to lay it right over the top. So everything looks like it's all pretty and lined up. Give it a press right here. Flip it over, and we'll finish taping it on the back. There we go. And now we're ready to complete our cards, because it's basically done. So here's our card base. All you have to do is remember that this panel goes, see? This one goes with this card, and this one goes with this card. All right, so I'm going to use some multi-purpose liquid glue to do that. I'll flip this over. And there we go. So then we're going to set this right here. Just wiggle it into place. The glue gives you a little bit of wiggle room. And there we are. We don't need to really embellish this at all. It's just so beautiful, just the way it is. If, for example, you know someone, this could be a great birthday card. This is kind of a thank you card, but it also could be a beautiful sympathy card, a very masculine sympathy card. All you have to do is change out the sentiment, which would be not hard at all. You just have to find one small enough so that you could still have a sun. So there we go. And then this one has a little bit more contrast because the wood background is quite a bit lighter than our soft suede. But soft suede will work with everything. So let me go ahead and put all of the cards in here so you can see how beautiful these are. And I truly appreciate you. Thank you everybody for visiting me today while I did these scenic cards. And again, you'll be able to find the free PDF on my blog at www.stampingtoshare.com, and I'll get that up sometime within a week. We'll talk to you soon, everybody, and I'll see you back here. Well, I'll see you in our Happy Stampers Stamping to Share group tomorrow afternoon at 1 o'clock. I do a little mailbox share on Wednesdays in the group. And then I'll be back stamping live for you here on Thursday with another beautiful card. Have a great day, everyone. I truly appreciate you. Bye-bye.